you have this multiplicity of political parties now that sprang up. Remember, Babangida created SDP and then NRC. Nigeria want to follow it up by two-party system, maybe put an independent, which could have even been better for me. But when Gani Fahimi went to court to challenge it, the Supreme Court ruled that freedom of association implies that anybody can form any association, associate to any person he likes, and then move on, provided the person complies with the dictates of the Corporate Affairs Commission as to registration. So people now started registering a lot of political parties. Now, the way dictators arise is just very simple, and that is what Nigeria is trying to copy. They want to copy the Ugandan style, copy the Chinese. The Chinese one is even better now, because Chinese will say in China, if you are corrupt, you die. But here, if you are corrupt, you will be given chieftaincy title.
The only covenant parts.
So the thing is that they have no such powers. But nonetheless, we should ask ourselves: do we even have opposition? We only have one man opposition in Nigeria, and the only opposition in Nigeria is P2P. I'm not talking of his NDC as an opposition party. I'm talking of him individually as an opposition. That is the only person who, if he coughs here, the next day Baron Anoga reacts. The next day Daniel Bwala reacts. Atiku will say everything, will say nobody will pay attention to that. Any other opposition member will say whatever they want to say against the government, but nobody pays attention to that. But the minute P2P says, this is this, just watch the next few hours, you see the reaction of the ruling party. So virtually Nigeria has lost the power of opposition, and they are also helping to muzzle it up. You can recall that when they started doling out money to any governor, any member of House of Reps, any senator, any House of Assembly that joins APC, I sounded that morning, either here this TV or the other TV, that Nigeria is drifting into a dictatorship of one party state, and that is what they think they are going to achieve. But like our discourse today has exposed that such a thing is not even possible in Nigeria, because the state of the president who is trying to perpetrate it has actually backslided from the president and backed him and say, "Oh God, we don't agree because we are voting this man in." So the issue of Muslim opposition, this thing that is not only in ENUGU, it's in Anambra. Virtually all the 32 states that now belong to APC, they have shown the same thing. But I'm also waiting for them to close adverts on and political campaigns on social media. So because that is the next way they are coming. The next place they will come is internet.
Let's look at the ENUGU governorship candidate for the People's Democratic Party.
Yes.
There's Uche Naji. Yes. He just recently made a statement that is coming for a single time move. He does not intend to make it double, just one time move. What do you think about him as the candidate for the party? Do you see him winning this election, looking at the influence of the current administration?
Well, you see, Uche is a good political strategist, but the problem with Uche's candidacy is that he's in a party that has been dissipated by Wike, even though I know he belongs to the Wike faction. So you don't know which faction actually in PDP is going to take the trump card. What about if he wins the election? Actually, because every ENUGU East territorial candidate who is running for any election has to go do one more term, because Peter Mba from there has already finished the first 4 years for the zone. Because like we're zoning north and south in the presidency, we're also zoning in ENUGU state here. So if he wins the election, definitely he doesn't need to angle for more than one term. But the problem is that the party where he is in, I don't know if he wins the election. What about if Wike has a disagreement with Wike and Wike tells his own person that he's no more the candidate, and they say, okay, which candidate are you? They say he belongs to the other side, and the other side is not recognized by INEC, where that goes in. But let us just keep our fingers crossed. The other opposition candidate who has not even made any statement, that's why I say there is no opposition in Nigeria, so to say. I belong to the NDC, but I don't see us as opposition. Our candidate, Chiakawa, has not even made any public statement since the ticket was, given to him. So you now ask yourself, who is actually challenging Peter Mba in ENUGU? Who? Is it
and the NDC guy is also quiet. The ADC guy.
I don't even know who the ADC guy is. I don't even know who he is. So that's why I say, who actually is challenging Peter Obi? Peter Obi has no opposition. But if he has a very strong opposition, he has a lot of things going against his candidacy. A lot.
Like?
One, taxation is going against his candidacy. Taxing is a policy, a product of employment. If you didn't employ me, you can't tax me.
That's why P2B says you need to empower the people first before
Exactly. So that is one big minus for him. And again, he makes what you call utopian promises. And they call it political promise. When he gave us promise of giving us water in 180 days, 3 years down the line, we have not seen water yet. Let me just stop at this too. But a lot of things, if you dig deeper, why is for his state, he's a businessman. Like some of the things he is setting up in ENUGU that he had money. Many of us applaud him for that. Even though if you look deep into the structures themselves, you also find some other shady deals.
Run an elitist government.
Yeah, so that is the thing I say. If there is a Wakibia is a good candidate, but in a disorganized party. Chiakoha is another good candidate, but has become so.
He's in slumber.
He's still sleeping. So ADC man, I don't know who he is.
I want to be very blunt to you, Mr. Fakan. Yes. Your own party, the NDC organized a so-called primaries here in ENUGU.
Yes.
And some political pundits believe that there has never been anything like that. I mean, every candidate or every aspirant held their own primaries, and then the primary moved to Abuja. Before you know it, some people began to quietly announce themselves as a candidate. Is this what you are promising Nigeria? The more you look, the less you see.
My brother, you see, I'm a very blunt politician. As to NDC's primary election, I was not just by the side, I was a major player. During the screening exercise, I was the secretary of the screening committee for the entire ENUGU West. We screened our candidates purely on the templates given to us by the party, some formulated by us, the screening committee, to make sure it was objective. We scored them, we sent the scores across to them in Abuja. They commended that of ENUGU West on a special note and told us that our template will be used in future primary elections and screenings for the party. We kept our fingers crossed. Then I said that they should also go and run for primary election. I was also a player because I was the returning officer for the primary election in the exact local government. I'm coming. I was the returning officer for the primary election in the exact local government. Now we returned that, we do our primary election on camera. Many of you were there who pressmen. We sent the candidates that we are based on the score. They are still on my phone here to Abuja. Lo and behold, 2 weeks after, the candidate that were returned to us never even came for my screening. Then it also come for my primary election.
The
whole effort we made was in nullity. Now they say they have John Paul faction and Obeta faction. I now ask those people in John Paul faction, did these people come for your own screen? They said no. Did they come for a primary? They said no.
Did they have a screen in Abuja?
There you are. So I have to confront even our presidential candidate. The last time we were at a town hall meeting, I confronted him with that. He gave it. He said, well, he's not speaking for the party. But this is one of the things he is trying to correct the very moment he gets into office. Because you can see, it's even like they have boxed him into a corner in NDC. If he wants to push his agenda and his philosophy of decency into the details of NDC, they will tell him, go and concentrate on your presidential campaign. We are not going to run the party.
So just a quick one.
Yes.
What exactly are you opposing? If the opposition could commit this kind of, democratic blunder inside there's internal democracy. Slow dog say that no. What exactly are you opposing? See, you could play good as a small party or a new party, like NDC could not hold primaries. By their own word, they said go and organize primaries.
Correct.
And And you understand that it wasn't an isolated case. In fact, in ENUGU, you attempted a primary, you have a result. You know, Geneva, for instance, I know that every single candidate had their own primary. You know, in fact, some people had their own days before the primary day. The candidates, about 6 of them, had their pockets of primaries. That's for House of Rep. The same thing with Senate. You know, and this is a supposed opposition party that is coming to right
the wrongs of the ruling party.
So what is the hope?
Now, see, like I told you, the very moment we reoriented our mindset towards making politics a business venture, trying to make go away from making politics a transactional affair, that is when we start getting it right. It is worse even in the ruling party APC. In the federal constituency, the person who they said they returned has been campaigning. Lo and behold, I think opened their portal. His name was not there. The name of even the other one was not there. But the name was in the president. The name of one person was in the presidency. So if you call the president, oh yes, this is our candidate. The candidate who is campaigning is not the one that is in the presidency. And if the governor even goes to talk for anybody in the presidency, we will be talking about another candidate altogether. So the problem is neither here nor there. Our mindset, what we needed in Nigeria is to get it. See, when the head is rotting, the whole body will be decayed. If we get the head correct, the very day Nigeria gets election correct, Africa will be saved.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this morning. I know we have a lot to still look into. You're still itching to ask questions, but we're so behind time. We just have to leave. Thank you for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure having me here, having you people with me, and talking about this latest Osun election. We do what you have delved into a lot of issues. My pleasure always coming on Signaturetv.
Thank you. Mike Ginger.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Focus, that was a wonderful one. And to our viewers, well, this was loaded. Unfortunately, we'll have to go. Time is not our friend. And I encourage you to always stay with Signaturetv Morning Show. And the show continues, you know, in Signaturetv. Of course, I am Dr. Mark Ginger Iberame, always here to ginger the show.
My name is Christopher Lele. Stay with us.
Tired of the snow? Tired of the bad TV signals? Nigeria has gone digital. Introducing Free TV, the national platform for every Nigerian. Get 100 plus channels immediately. Sports, news, and entertainment in your native language. All with clear picture quality. Whether you're in the city or the village, our satellite signal reaches every corner of 36 states from day one. No monthly subscription, just a compatible decoder and you are set. It's a national asset built for you. Take the show on the road, download the Free TV app and stream your favorite channels anywhere. Starting this May, scan to download the app or call 0700 388 7277. Free TV, digital TV for free. Brought to you by NBC.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them, at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Signaturetv, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signaturetv.
Signaturetv, news in your pocket. Signaturetv, news in your pocket.
New every morning on Signaturetv, we open the day for you with needed energy, information, and required vibes to shape your day. From sizzling snippets of stories in various areas of life to intriguing conversations with net worth guests.
When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem.
There's no outstanding gratuity when Obi took over from me. I left in all the accounts of Anambra State 13.8 billion for him.
Your day cannot be complete without Signature Morning on weekdays and Signature New Day on weekends. There is no better way to start your day except Signature Morning and Signature New Day every day on Signaturetv.
Signaturetv, news in your pocket.
Why the main market is in chaos. People are...
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye. Aye. We have taken the vote by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Hello, this is the conference, and my name is Mwabo Zenjok. You are welcome. We make it business-like today because we are talking real national business. Let me first meet my friends who are my guests today. Dr. Obinna Nwachukwu, he is the Managing Director, Editor-in-Chief of Montage Africa Media Limited. Dr. Nwachukwu, you are welcome.
Thank you, Chief, for being here once more.
Great. I have for the first time in this program, or on this program, Tochukwu Okorie. He is the Executive Secretary of, let me be clear about it, Provocate Transparency and Accountability Initiative. Okorie, let me give you a handshake. You're welcome.
Nice to be here.
By the way, where have you been really?
I've been around.
Do you want me to say something?
That's it.
I will say you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And on my left is my very big friend. I always call him the Joss man, Alpha Jagdeen. Alpha Jagdeen goes by that beautiful name, a media consultant. Jagdeen.
Truly an honor to be here.
No, Jagdeen, please. I want you to consult for me. What does it look like consulting media matters for me?
Is to make everything better, to come from a position of expertise, to give credence to ethics, and to give credence to professionalism. So I can assure you that we are made to understand
the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. So there is always something that can be improved upon, and that can only come by if we give credence to best global practices.
Best global practices, that's what he brings into the media consultancy business. Maybe if you want to look better than you look now, please talk to Alpha. But for this morning, we're not looking at looks, we're looking at critical national issues. When the Tinubu administration came to power, on the first day, the president announced two fundamental policy initiatives. One, subsidy on petroleum products, gone. Two, merging of the forex, no multiple windows. Those two policies have been driving every other action taken by this government. There are those who've been screaming, the policies are hurting, the policies are killing the economy, the poor is getting poorer and the population of the poor is increasing. All manner of screams. But this morning we are going to look at something positive, apparently, that has fallen out from those policies. Financial windfall for the subnationals. The states are getting humongous sums of money and smiling home. The local governments are being allocated sums of money they never dreamt would come their way. What are they doing with that windfall? Indeed, is there financial windfall? I will begin with Dr. Obinna Nwachukwu. Dr. Obinna, you've been around government, you've been around private sector. You are in the media, critiquing, examining. I saw your paper carry one front page story 2 weeks ago or thereabout. The NDAs are cash strapped. Is there a financial windfall for the subnationals?
Thank you, Chief. Once more, I'm happy being here. It's always a pleasure. In the first place, I have to say that there is no financial windfall, as far as I'm concerned. If you check what we have now, in terms of exchange rates, and in terms of inflationary pressures, compared to what we had some 5-6 years ago, or even beyond, you will realize that there's no financial windfall. Because the cost of goods have gone up. There's even what we call in economics stagflation, where you have the same package but quantity less. Sometimes, in some cases, even the quality has gone down. So, I don't think there's a financial windfall. In numbers, we could say there's a financial windfall. But in terms of purchasing power, I don't think there's anything.
Let's look at the numbers first. If my producer can please help me, just help me with the figures. You put on the screen the figures, because statistics don't tell lies. Even though there is a course in communication which is called lying with statistics. But statistics don't tell lies. If the figures in 2023 allocation to the states, for instance, were 200 billion, and now they're getting 500 billion. Okorie, what is a windfall if that number has been so tripled? You are heading home with far more cash. There's no increase in number of your employees. Don't you have so much left to play with?
There is a whole lot of sense in what Dr. Nwachukwu said. At the beginning of May 2023, the exchange rate was about 700 to
the dollar.
A dollar, 700 naira to a dollar. By the turn of the year, December 2023, the dollar had hit about 1,600 to 1,800. That's more than double. Now, inflation rose from a single or around maybe not single digit, we had gone past single digit. Buhari had brought us to about 18 to 20%. But by December the same year, we were hitting over 40% rate of inflation. And that has been sustained up till now. The net effect of that is that the quantity of asphalt that you would get as at May 2023, early May, before May 29, the quantity of asphalt you will get with 1,000 naira, okay, and what you will get with 100 naira today is probably just comparable. In other words, you would spend more than twice what you would have spent in May 2023 to turn a kilometer of road. So in effect, what has changed is just the volume of naira in the pocket or in the hands of the state government and the local governments. Substantially, not much has changed in the real sense of it. To balance that, you can also say that whereas this volume of money is in the hands of the subnational governments, the civil servants in those governments would have gone home better if they had more, a higher volume of those papers in their own hands to at least deal with inflationary tendencies which don't select whether you are in government or out of government, or whether you're a civil servant or you're a businessman. So the transition from what it used to be to where it is does not reflect at the civil service level, because the jump from 35,000 to 70,000 minimum wage does not address the more than triple increase in inflation.
We'll come to that. Jack J. Our two colleagues seem not to agree that that's windfall for the subnationals.
I'm in tandem with what they just said. Their position is apt. There can't be a better time to discuss this topic because it's the reality we are faced with today. When the current administration came on board, there is something that the President and Commander-in-Chief has always tried pushing forward. And what is that? He has been talking to the governors to please use the resources at their disposal to better the lives of the people. In fact, some analysts would say that it's in an attempt to further divulge power to the subnationals, as it were, that he has decided
to push more money to them.
But as it were, it puts to test this dictum which says, to whom much is given, much is required. Because the truth of the matter is that there's very little that these governors can do with what is presently being sent.
In other words, that volume does not translate into...
It's just quantum. Chief, this beautiful hat you're wearing is 45,000 to 55,000 naira in the market today. But 3 years ago, if you had 15 to 18 to 20,000 naira, you buy it. I can tell you, anyway, let me just keep that. And hence, the bottom line is we are far from target. In fact, we have missed the way. I am a very strong advocate of, if we want Nigeria to be the Signaturetv of the world, if we want life to be better for the Nigerian citizenry, can we sit down to a town hall? Can we call our experts? Can we call every stakeholder towards seeing how we can buttress the value of our currency?
Let us look at it. Jack Dingwait, is it really true that there's no windfall? And let me tell you why I ask you this question again. If these two policies were enunciated in United Kingdom, in US, in Japan, will they be discussing the value of their currency against the dollar?
Chief, let me, before I comment, there's something I want to say. For Nigeria to move forward, for the subnationals to move forward, we must change the idea, the entitlement mentality which we have. It trickles down even to our homes. And that's why members of the National Assembly, that's why those in the executive positions, in quote, are stealing these days, because people back home are expecting something from you. And that's that entitlement mentality. They believe that we voted for you, you must do our road, pay our children's school fees, feed us 3 times a day. Anytime we come to your house, you bring drinks and all that. So, because of that, people are trying to pile money. But we cannot move forward if we don't do 2 things. 1, each subnational, in this case states and local governments, must look inwards by developing their internally generated revenue. There is no studies have shown that there is no local government, no community in Nigeria that is not endowed with one natural resource.
That is also increasing the volume of money available to them.
We're not talking about that. Let me land. Because if I believe that Mohammed and Joko will always do everything for me, I will remain idle. And what will I do? I will get myself involved in spending the money without recourse, without thinking. But if I am generating that money, I will use it prudently. So the states have to look inwards and develop the IGL. 2, you cannot talk about windfall when there is no industrialization. Okay, you say there is a windfall, but Nigeria is still the poverty capital of the world. So how do you balance that? If there is a windfall, if people are eating very well, if the economy is robust, why are we still the poverty capital of the world?
That is the question to ask subnationals.
Yes, because there is no industrialization. Jobs are not being created.
Is it going to be created by the federal government? The subnationals own the land, the subnationals own the population, the nationals have the university located there.
The money going down to the subnationals are not for job creation. Principally, it is maybe to pay salaries. How many industries are working today? The current administration, either federal or state, how many industries have they started or have they enabled? Which environment is being enabled? It is the duty of government to create the enable environment. We're having problem with power. People are almost go to one estate, apart one estate. I think it's along the Asoko area. I think it's owned by Air Force. Every building there has a borehole. Everybody drink their water, and you know the effect. So there is no industrialization. So when you talk about America, Europe, and all that, they will not talk about it because there is industries, there are job opportunities, there are what we call fallback measures. There is nothing like that.
Okay, you know what it is.
Some years ago,
yes.
some years ago, I'm sure, depending on the kind of car you use, with 8,000 to 12,000, you fill a tank. Sure. Today, there are some cars you fill with 100,000 naira. So let's say you give me 2 million today, or let's say my salary, maybe my salary is 200,000, and I was jubilating. Do you know that today anybody that has a car cannot survive on 200,000 naira salary, because the minimum you can spend on fueling your car, maybe if all these small cars, is 40,000 a week. 40,000 times 4, that's 120,000. So if you're on
160,
so fine, maybe 2 years ago my salary was on 60,000. You increase it to 200,000. Is that not what you're talking about windfall? But as at that 2 years ago, 60,000, maybe 1/4 would have taken care of my fueling for 1 month. Now you increase it from 60,000 to 200,000, and you're telling me that you're giving me a windfall, when out of 150 of that amount I will use to fuel my car. I've not paid school fees. Every school has increased their school fees by 3-4 times, like my brother Tochukwu said. Everything you need, even transportation from here now to Umuahia, is 45,000-50,000. Something that used to be 15,000. So if you are going to your village in a public transport, you keep 100,000 for transport alone. So if you increase my salary from 60 to 200,000, and you say give me a windfall,
okay,
there is no commensurate distance.
Thank you. Okay, you know, I'm insisting. My line of thought was, if these two policies were instituted in UK, in US, in Japan, in Germany. Will those economies and their media eggheads sitting down now be talking about the value of the dollar? Because they expected with the more volume of naira or their currency available to the subnationals to use existing expertise and competence to drive national development.
Well, let me first disagree with Dr. Bin at some of the issues he raised. There are basic problems that are what I call policy problems. All right, and we're talking about subnationals. Before you go to talk about whether that has translated to a jump in a micro at the micro level, whether people have food to eat or movement, transportation, and all of that are eased and all of that. The question is, what can the subnationals do with what they have? Now, again, Chief, you do not compare apples and oranges. These are two different economies. Nigerian economy and the UK economy are two different things. Now, over the years, UK currency has remained stable, relatively stable against competing currencies. That hasn't been the case with our local currency here. Secondly, anywhere in the world where there is a situation of more money chasing fewer goods, you also have inflation. So when this volume of money is pushed into the system, the country or the economy is awash with money, you would expect a spiral inflation. Any economy will respond to it somewhere in a similar direction. But what will the difference be? The difference will be in what the government does, the policymakers, what do they do in response to those pressures? And if you asked me, or like you just did, I would expect that before even making such moves, making such announcements like subsidy gone and all of that, there would have been this economic eggheads and all of that think tank that would have sat down to anticipate the response they would get, the economy, how the economy was going to respond to those policies, and would have planned a strategy to also absorb those shocks. Because definitely there would be, anywhere in the world there will be a shock in the economy, but what the difference would be, are there plans in place, are there structures in place to respond to those shocks? And in our case the answer is no. In UK, I would expect, going by antecedent, that they would have structured out all of this, anticipated all of this, and planned to absorb whatever comes out of it, the fallout of all of those things. We are here today grappling with the fallout of that first day announcement by the president, which we would have anticipated if there had been a plan, if there had been structures put in place and all of those things. Now that is absent. Now, so down to the subnationals, is there really a windfall? The argument is still the same, and I will be talking in terms of the what the money could do for the local government chairman and for the state governor. If I were, and I respect that Imo State Governor has
increased minimum wage to 100,000,
to increase minimum wage. That is actually more like it for me, because before you talk about, Dr. Nwachukwu was just talking about fueling, and it's a fact of life. It's a reality that I fueled my car full tank in May 2023
with about 8,000,
about 8, 10, 15,000, depending on what size of car you're driving.
Now you are fueling with 40,
more than
60,000
of that amount will not do the same thing for you. So it makes sense for me that rather than looking at what you're giving to the civil servants as a favor you're doing to them, look at it as, look, this is the reality
to the economic situation.
To the economic situation, which is the truth. So, and we will now zero in on, we are here, this is where we are, this is the reality of our situation. What can the subnationals do? And one of them is what we are discussing. How do they jumpstart the economy? How do they make this money work? And the question will also be, those who were there before them, who didn't experience this so-called windfall, did they manage the resources
they had then?
They had.
And what
has changed? That's the question.
There is something Okore has said now. Okay. The money available to them, what did they do with it?
Well, to answer your question, but can I just a kind of step back?
Yes.
You brought a laydown of developed economies. Don't forget that our economy is largely import substituted. There's hardly anything we produce here. That is what has dollarized our economy. That is why even the woman selling IOU in the market will tell you, Oga,
gentlemen, I want to put a scenario. Please, I want to put a scenario. I don't want to forget. Just 1 second. So much money available to the subnationals, even at the center.
Yeah.
So much to do within the economy. Roads to build, rail to build, schools to build, hospitals to build, electricity to work on, dams to be built, security equipment to be bought. All these things I have mentioned within the Nigerian economy are money exports. Nigeria exports money to get them. You can hear a governor comes here and says, I built some of the finest roads in my state. I used Boeings, I used Julius Berger, he will mention 3, 4, 5 foreign construction firms. That is that money, that volume of money being exported.
Yeah.
Now we talk about our electricity sector. We go to Germany, we go to France, now we go to China, we sign MOUs to import competence and equipment to build. Yet we have quantum of money that we could have used to pay Dr. Obinna, who's an expert, to pay Okorie, who's an expert, to pay Jardine, who knows, thoroughly competent in his field. But our establishment, we choose to export that money. Does it depend on the value of the naira? Or does it depend on a mindset and attitude? Yes,
can I attempt to answer that question? Chief, you're the oldest man on set. Dr. Obinna is here. Way back in the 70s, I knew of roads that were constructed in my state, Plateau, by the then Ministry of Works, or whatever it is called. Those roads are still in existence.
Gentlemen, didn't I draw up the issue?
These were local engineers. These were bona fide Plateau indigenes, and probably if there was need, technology came from somewhere. You see, we live in a country where we are celebrating building bridges, when in other places AI has taken over, when in other places they've been to the moon several years back. Technologically, we probably are nowhere. If you see what is happening in the world today, the truth of the matter remains that we have not even started. Probably the person that will even emancipate us has not yet been born.
But this country has been there since then.
Hold on, here we are talking to the international community. I hate to say these things on national television. I wish this was just a local conversation. But the bottom line is, I will also tell you, a particular administration in Jos awarded a contract to where my former secondary school used to be. Chief, that road was washed off after 2 rainy seasons.
Good.
By a local contractor.
Okorie, he's given 2 contrasting examples. How the roads built many years back by Nigerian engineers still standing. Road built now by Nigerian engineers washed off. Then governments were dependent and had confidence in that Nigerian engineer. Somehow that confidence and trust seems to have vanished. And so we import. You know, I'm raising this matter because this quantum of money available to the subnationals is exported in order to bring in competence. Whereas the policymaker anticipates big volume of money to be used to service local expertise, keep the money inside, raise the local, domesticate the competence, and the policy would have worked.
And reflect the economy.
Chief, the situation is not as
simple as I'm painting.
You're painting it. There are deep policy issues that account for these things, and I don't believe that it's a matter of competence. This same local contractors and local engineers that that did the roads that got washed off after first rains, I can put it to you, the same people can build roads that can last 50 years.
So who done it?
Now, so who
done it?
let me explain. You see, it's a question of the egg and the chicken. The trouble we have is we have our politics upside down. We have a situation where the politicians live in opulence at the expense of everyone else. And therefore, everybody is under pressure, chasing the politician, trying to, because your children go to the same school as those of the politicians, and so on. You buy from the same market. So when these inflationary pressures come, they don't select the politician's wife from my own wife, from your wife. So that is the problem. So the local engineer is doing everything to save as much money from the contract sum to be able to pay millions of naira in school fees and buy fuel in his car and so on,
and service his status
and service his status and all of that. So the problem is really not about the know-how. It's not about the skill. It's not about it is about the rush for money, the rush to meet up, like we say now. And if you're not meeting up, nobody is there to excuse your failure. There's nobody going to excuse your failure. So you're going to do now. So here's the problem. I was discussing offset with my brother here, and I said our problem in this country is one, and that problem is our politics. We have a National Assembly where we have 36 state assemblies that are peopled by our brothers and relations who from day one are already planning the next election. And so their preoccupation is to get enough money to buy votes or impress people around. Now, there is little thinking about how to improve the local economy, about how to reduce the pressures on families. For example, there is increased tendency towards parents sending their children to private schools because the public schools are collapsing. There are no teachers, there are no classrooms, there are no study materials. And they're also looking at a school that posted last JAM and last WAEC and NECO, they posted 70% of their students scoring high grades. Okay, so you as a parent, you want your child to come out tops, and genuinely or otherwise, you think that this school is doing well.
And so you pay more.
You look for the money. You do everything
the pressure is
to
on
get
you.
the money. So the pressure is on you. So these are some of the problems. It's more of our politics than our competence.
Let's look at the politics. But don't be there was a video I wanted my colleagues, my producer, to play. But on second thought, I said, leave it. A senator of the Federal Republic, respected senator, Dr. Ojuzo Kalu, hosted the publisher of Ovation newspaper in his house. What's his name?
Dele
Momodu. And he was referring to pre-1998. He said he knows governors, he knows politicians who have become billionaires, who were nobodies before they entered into politics. Let me quote him. They stole public fund to become politics, and he warned that if you dared him, he would name names. I didn't want to provoke social media backlash. I didn't want to play it back. But the central bank governor 8 weeks ago raised the alarm that there was so much liquidity in the banks. And one expert came to my program and said, why is the central bank governor raising any alarm? Why do you see the mouth of a bird and ask, how does this flying thing, where does this flying thing eat, when you see the mouth? But the moment there's a FAC allocation, the banks face liquidity problems.
Absolutely.
Because the governors pack the money and buy up all the dollars in the system and keep. And where does that money end? In the banks. Now, I've told this lengthy story to ask you, where does corruption come in the application of this volume of money now coming to the subnationals? Does it have an effect?
Chief, thank you. When my brother Tuchku was speaking, I was saying, when it gets to my turn, I was summarizing what he was saying, that the bend is corruption. Like Alpha said, somebody was given a contract, in less than 2 years, they then washed it off. That is corruption. Because these days, competence is sacrificed on the altar of who you know. And mind you, some contracts are being given and are being subletted. You don't give contract now based on who you know. I mean, based on competencies, who you know. If they say there are three companies are required, one person will ask to bring
three quotations.
And it is.
They might as well give me a contract to build an airport.
I will now get that contract and sell to you. You may not have, maybe you are even into agricultural. Check some of the road projects. You see, check the names of the contractors. Most of them are not civil engineers. You see a company, some Integrated Farms Limited, handling a road project. So you see where the problem is. Then there are also people who are being paid from our taxes to supervise the construction of those roads. They are not doing it. Let me give you an instance. I was in the east last week. Somebody called me from in the north and said that he was given a contract to supply relief materials, I think rice and groundnut oil to Owerri. And that since he knew I'm from Imo State, if I could help him to get somebody in Owerri who can handle that. And I called somebody. But surprisingly, yes, on Sunday I got back to him and said, sorry, that the person in charge of stores in that office in Owerri, a federal government agency in charge of humanitarian and relief, insisted that he must be the one to do it. And people advised him that he should allow the man to do it, or else whatever he brings, it will not be certified. So he now asked the man in charge of stores and that Owerri to nominate the contract. No, nominate. He now handle the contract and pay him. So that is Nigeria. I'm giving you an instance. And what am I talking about is normal office in Owerri. I'm a journalist, I don't fear.
So that is one example of what the government agency named FEMA. There was a time when FEMA got a job to do FEMA road.
Yes.
Between AYA and that place was always bad. You notice every year
he breaks that road.
He got that contract, and people in FEMA insisted if they are not the one that will do it, they will not certify it. The guy had to send that contract to them. They did the contract and paid him a percentage. And every year, if you notice that area is being repaired, you ask yourself, what is the more permanent solution to it? These are little instances. So it's a problem. Then the other one you raised about there was something else you said. So the other boils down to corruption and lack of competence.
You know what?
I remember one former deputy senate president, T.K. Kormado. He said there was one mention he said if he bottle democracy. And that's what we do. When that money comes from federal allocation committee, it goes to the states. I happen to have worked in the bank before, and there's what we call round tripping. What is that round tripping? The governors get this money. They have their really change operators. They give them the money. They give them dollars. Now that dollars, before even they say the governor is traveled abroad, they take that money outside this country. Then they watch the market. Anytime the exchange rate increases, they bring it back, and that's more money in their pocket. And that is why you don't see tangible projects going on. They collect that money. Maybe you call the local government chairman. How much is their worker salaries? Maybe 5-10 million. Okay, give them 5 million or 10 million. Give them a little money for yourself, and that's it. And that's why most of these governors don't want the independence of the local government, financial autonomy to take place. This is 1 year after Supreme Court gave that judgment. Which of the states today is practicing that financial independence for local governments? Remove the local government from the governors. Many people don't want to be governors because that's where they get the money. And most of the governors that you see that are facing EFCC charges or being investigated, most of them are tied to local government funds. Most of them are tied to local government funds because if you have this money you are talking about, you should be able to do tangible things. There should be things people should see. It's not just increasing minimum wage, but there should be projects. There are rules, trunk A, trunk B, and I think even C. Which local government today is embarking on any meaningful project? Maybe other Lagos State and a few others. There are under residual list things local government is supposed to do. Under concurrent list, there are things states are supposed to do. And then exclusive, there are things federal government are supposed to do. They are not doing it. And like you also pointed out, some 2 weeks ago, I did that story. Most of the ministries, department agencies today of federal government, they don't have money. They don't have money. They are using that money to travel. Every day, around this one travel, the president travel, the VP travels, the minister, but they are not funding them. Ask any contractor, any federal government contractor today, whether he has been paid and when last was he paid. There was even a particular one, somebody did their contract. Then the MD of the agency. Now when you go to, I'm not afraid to say it, go to the office of the Accountant General of the Federation. There's what they call desk officers. There are directors, they call them desk officers. Each federal ministry has a desk officer. That desk officer, you know, before they used to do the envelope, yes. Now they're not doing the system. Now what they now do is agencies don't pay contractors again. It is Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Finance office or General that pays. So when they do, they push it to the jeepney platform, but they're not paid. For them, for any contractor to get his money, the desk officers there, I'm actually investigating that story, the desk officers there, palm must be greased. Let's say for example, maybe Federal Ministry of Power, this month there is maybe 10 billion released. And this is a desk officer that is charged maybe 11 or 12 parastatals under Federal Ministry of Power. He now decides what to pay and what not to pay. So it is the issue of who gets to the stream early that drinks the good water. So whoever he favors, he pays. Then next month you also fill the system. You also submit your requests. So it is not the best, and that's why MDAs are crying. What federal government is doing these days is just to pay workers' salaries. Because they know once they pay them, no demonstration, no strike. But other things are not being done. I'm a consultant to about some agencies, and I can tell you when last I was paid. And some of these DGs, I'm very close to them, and I feel their pain.
Okay. In this, because you are involved,
yes,
isn't it? Yeah. I'm not going to take it from your point of involvement. No, Jacqueline, just a minute. You know that the core issue now is corruption. That corruption is theft.
Stealing
is what is holding the volume of money given to the sub-nationals to achieve what it ought to achieve. A very serious challenge. But please, it will be good for you, Jacqueline, examine what is suffering within these sub-nationals as long as this challenge of corruption and not applying the resources subsists. What is suffering? Who is suffering? What gets undone?
The people are suffering. The people are suffering. The people are suffering. Governance is not really suffering. Those in government are not suffering. You see, the bottom line is that if you get given a contract to work on a road and that road goes washed off within 2 years, go and check out of the total contract
how much it was paid,
how much went to the governor, how much went to the commissioner of works, how much went to the director of works, how much went to the house of assembly
chairman committee on works,
and what have you. Go and check, and how much eventually ended up getting to do that job. As long as the me, myself and I thing continues in this country, I can assure you that this country will remain where it is. In fact, the truth is that things will get worse. Sir, when you go to the subnationals, because that is our thrust of discussion today, go and look at the level of poverty back in our villages. I don't think anybody can deny the fact that the level of suffering back at home is such that a lot of us can't fathom. Sir, I was discussing with my brother here. Hardly does a day go by that 4 or 5 people don't call you. And sometimes these calls are very genuine. Imagine a classmate of mine calling me and asking me for 2,000 naira so that he can buy gari for the children to eat that afternoon. And this is true. This is a guy I know very well. He will not lie because of 2,000 naira. And sometimes we even told you, I even have the 2,000 naira. That is how pathetic our situation is in this country.
Okay. Before you come in,
yes.
I want to make an observation. Have you noticed that after election, let me use the federal level, after an election and somebody wins the presidency, who are those that are drafted to be ministers and SAs? Those who contested elections in their states and failed.
That's right.
I don't know whether it's going to you. Now you realize that our appointment as ministers, as board chairman and all that are not being done on competence but on compensation grounds. You are not being given that position to recoup what you lost in the election. So if you were in my shoes and I contested for governorship and lost, maybe spent 1 billion or 2 billion, and now make me minister. You are making me minister because you are sympathizing for me and want me to recoup. So when that win for come, what will come first? I'll go to Bureau to change that money, and first of all recoup what I lost. Then take the one I will use for the next election. And then take the one I will give Alpha and Tochukwu. And the one I will give you for supporting me. So who suffers? I don't know whether you're all those who are ministers today, none of them
succeeded in his own election.
Succeeded, and none of them contested and won. So they are not being appointed on competence.
They are appointed to compensate.
Some people that are even aided and abetted Abacha regime. Some people that even got the billion belong to Abacha today serving as ministers.
Okay, I'm insisting on putting on this table what is suffering in the subnationals as a result of the situation that ought not to suffer if this windfall. Even the both of you said to me, because of the value of the naira, it's not really a windfall, but there's substantial amount of money available to them. Call it paper, but there's substantial quantum of paper available to them. If these pieces of paper were effectively used, which this conversation says has not been the case. What is suffering?
You know, there is a whole lot that we have raised there, so much to unpack, in this conversation, so that you don't even know where to start or where to end. Now, at some point I raised the issue. Before this windfall, the predecessors, those who were in office before this,
what did they do? What they got?
How did they run?
They were told the money was small, just a little.
It is same of same. So when you ask who is suffering or what's suffering, it is the same of the same, like they say. So the bottom line for me is politics has destroyed us, our type of politics, that is so insensitive to the plight of the ordinary man. So when we talk about corruption, it's an endemic story. It's been there. We've come a long way. This movement, of course, you recall in Obasanjo's days, it was a regime of Ghana must go. You will recall
in the first coup speech, the very first coup speech in this country, the 10%ers.
So the 10%ers were always there. Now, if you want to go that route, today it is worse. My argument is that there is a pressure, there is something enabling this corruption. And that is the obscene lifestyle of politicians, who, like all these other people have said, they take their own share of the money first, recoup what they lost and all of that. Now, so people are not appointed, like Dr. Nwachukwu said, on the basis of capacity and competence, but compensation as to what was your role to my emergence. Yeah. What role did you play in my emergence as whatever I am, governor and all of those things? So if you didn't play any role, don't expect to be appointed, even if you were the most brilliant person in that place. So the people are suffering. The next category of things that is suffering are also the people. The number 3, the people. So the grass suffers where, like they say, 2 elephants, but I don't see 2 elephants.
Only one elephant.
So there's only one elephant here, and that's
eating up everything.
Eating up everything. So we should come to that point where we begin to look at how to restructure. And if I had any disappointment at all concerning this federal government, it is that over so many years, the President Commander-in-Chief always advocated restructuring.
I hold you there. I do not know how much time I have. My producer should tell me, but I think at this point we are beginning to look at solutions. What ought to be done to reverse the situation? No matter the argument on whether there is windfall or no windfall, we agree that more money is coming. How better can it be utilized? What steps ought to be taken to correct the situation? But I take a very short break, and I'll be back. Please stay with us. Let me welcome you back. It's just few minutes more remaining, and these few minutes we devote to solutions. Dr. Binna, it is, sometimes they say talk is cheap, and the governor will tell you, come and sit here and see how difficult it can be. What can the sub-nations do to redeem the situation?
What I would say they will do, like I said earlier, the windfall should be used for the benefit of the people. Embark on industrialization. Establish industries. I remember in those days, Sambakwe in Imo State. He did it.
even when we didn't have this kind of workforce. You had the Imo airport, you had the APAM, you had the protocol 3, many of them, and they created job. You see, when you do that, you create job, and you give people permanent source of income, and it has a multiplier effect.
Thank you. Industrialization.
And in doing that, prioritize the needs of your state and local governments. And like I said earlier, every community has a resource, natural resource. Prioritize them, tap into those things, and there will be sustainable economy.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kore, I happen to know your state full well. Today, salt is an industrial chemical lying fallow on the ground. The world is looking for it.
Okay.
Agriculture, a very strong dimension. What should be the priority?
Okay, let me take the opportunity to congratulate my governor, Francis Ogwonianwefu. Recently, he set up what some people call economic team, but he called them industrialization committee. All right, and in the message I sent to one of the
those appointees,
persons nominated into that committee, I told him, your first assignment is to look into setting up a salt refining.
Congratulate me now.
That's why. I mean, if he's listening, he will know that I said. Those of them in that platform will also know that I wrote it there, to him on WhatsApp, and they said, your first assignment would be to look into the possibility of setting up salt refining company. Because in my place where I come from, we have a salt lake, as you probably know. And then the second thing I said is that salt lake in my place is a mysterious kind of lake. It neither ebbs nor overflows its banks. No matter how much rain comes, it doesn't overflow its banks. And no matter how dry the dry season, it doesn't ebb. So it's just there. So it's also a tourism facility in a way. So why don't you think about developing that site? Okay? Clearing up that site, develop some kind of resort or something around there that people will come and see this lake here. The way it is, that's the way it always will be and has been around the season and from generation to generation. So just to zero in on what he said earlier, and yes, I agree with Dr. Obinna again that governors, and let me say this with every sense of responsibility, and I don't mean to criticize anybody, if this country is going to move forward, 70% of the job lies with the subnationals, not necessarily the president. Even with the structure as disjointed as it currently is, there is a whole lot the governor can do. And yes, you said that some of them will say, come and sit here and see
how difficult it can be.
Who forced you to go and sit there in the first place? You offered yourself for election. Thankfully, it's not a position of appointment that you say somebody just looked at you and appointed you. No, you said you want to do the job. And if you had elected to do the job, it would mean that you already knew what to do, what you were coming to face, and how you were going to resolve it. So nobody should come and say, your talk is cheap. You are talking because you are not here. No, who carried you there in the first instance? So to zero in on the solution, I agree 100% that we can do so much at the micro level, set up cottage industries here and there and all of that, and do something. Thankfully, one of the things that would help is the devolution of power. I mean, electric power generation and all of those things. States now can do their independent power projects, and most of these states, there is no place nowhere in the northeast, for example, you talk about the wind, and talk about sunlight and everything. You can do alternative power sources and all of that. At the south, you have running waters all over the place. You could build dams and all of those things. You could do independent power to power cottage industries.
Okay, just so that we don't overrun.
Well, basically, for me, as a parting shot, what we need to do to look at these issues is, as a country, we need to come together and see how we can improve upon the value of our currencies.
Value of currency, and also the value that we use to drive our society. An interesting conversation, almost 59 minutes running, overshooting in fact. All I can say that subnationals, you have a job cut out for you. Now more currency, more money is coming in, no matter what anybody says. Please do what you ought to do. That's the consensus this morning. Let me thank my colleagues for coming. They'll come again and again. I'll keep confronting issues that confront the nation. For this edition, thank you for investing your time with us. Good morning.
Plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on E-Vibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
So I should try harder. So
okay, I don't know that one.
Outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hubs on E-Vibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
Tired of the snow? Tired of the bad TV signals? Nigeria has gone digital. Introducing Free TV, the national platform for every Nigerian. Get 100 plus channels immediately. Sports, news, and entertainment in your native language with clear picture quality. Whether you're in the city or the village, our satellite signal reaches every corner of 36 states from day one. No monthly subscription, just a compatible decoder and you are set. It's a national asset built for you. Take the show on the road, download the Free TV app and stream your favorite channels anywhere. Starting this May, scan to download the app or call 0700 388 7277. Free TV, digital TV for free. Brought to you by NBC.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Signaturetv, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signature TV.
Signature TV, news in your pocket. Senator, it means that those who are saying that these protests are being sponsored by political interests, in fact, the truth may be that they are off the mark, and that if they are not on target, they may not know when the tide changes. Do you think, because you've said that some of these youths are in the street not representing any political interests, they are out in the street protesting what they think is not right for them and from their nation, is that to say really that there are no political interests involved?
Well, everyone has political interest, but the interest which these young people have is the interest of their future that has been destroyed by people who are in a position of power. From the president to the ministers to the governors, all of them, 98% of them attended public schools from primary, secondary to university level, paying almost nothing. Now go to a typical primary and secondary school in your locality and see how it has been destroyed over the years, simply because people in the position of power have the resources that they have accrued from the national treasury to take their children and give them the best of education in any part of the world. Keep that aside. 98% of people in the position of power, their mother either gave birth to them in their homes or in public hospitals. Because in the last 40, 50, 60 years, how many private hospitals do we have in Nigeria? But now go to a typical private hospital, public hospital, and see what you have there. Recently, I was in Bauchi. I was invited for an event. And then the head of a public school was delivering a speech. And he said, government can no more build hostels. Government can no more give scholarships. So what can government do? You attended a public university, lived in a public hostel, and now you find yourself in a position of power. You cannot build more hostels for the generation that succeeded you. You went to public school and was given a scholarship by your state government, and you are in a position of power. You cannot give scholarship to the children of the poor. Now, you cannot build a nation when you rob Peter to pay Paul. If the system is that of robbing Peter to pay Paul, then they should only expect patriotism from Paul, not from Peter. So if this country will experience peace and stability, then we must ensure social justice and equity. And these teeming young people who are sitting down, we don't know. This is a cake of gunpowder. This is a time bomb for our country. If you think that because you have 4 or 5 children that you have educated well and then you don't care. But those your children, which country are they going to live in? They're still going to live in this country here. And I've said it repeatedly that if we want Nigeria to work, then we must all be given that sense of belonging. Yes, I belong to Nigeria. Whatever part of the country I come from, I can be seen to be like any other person from any part of the country. But you can see what is happening today. The only job that needs no connection for you to get is the army, because of bandits in the northwest and the Boko Haram in the northeast. If you apply to the army, the Air Force, and the Navy, they will happily employ you because you are going to go and fight. But some of the most prestigious jobs in government are being occupied by people in the position of authority. And this cuts across the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. And will these young people whose future has been destroyed, will they simply fold their arms and see? Look at what is happening. When a marriage is taking place, it is the daughter of Emir A getting married to the minister, the son of Minister B, or the daughter of Senator A getting married to the son of Governor B. Because you can see they are even creating a dynasty of privilege, while you and your children, the poor ones here, are being consigned to a dynasty of poverty and want. So I believe that if Nigeria has to work, we must entrench social justice. Continue to reform the police. If you like, make every police a saint, it does not matter. Once the wealth of this country is in the hands of few people, every 2-3 years they bring a list. Hey, this person, Alaji this, he has this oil well. Chief Dad, he has this oil well. They are just sharing everything for themselves. They share contracts, they share oil well, they share procurement, they share everything. They even share their daughters and their sons to themselves. So the question is that these frustrated young people have nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. Now, you tell them to vote, they voted, and the person they voted with the hope of change is worse than the one they removed. This is what's happening in Nigeria today. And the preoccupation is saying we are fighting corruption. Okay, we're fighting corruption, and then it comes to the point. Some few years ago, the president was in Dubai and said he was going to bring the list of Nigerians who have properties in Dubai. That nobody heard of that again. They said Nigerians have bought a lot of properties in London. They are going to publish the list of that. No list came on, because by the time you are a president and you are given list, and you saw that 40 or 50% of people in that list are your loyalists, and the other 50 are your critics, you have two options. Either to publish everything, point blank, or you simply just cool off. And this is what is happening. So now, when you have this kind of country that serves very few, the youth must protest. In fact, it is a sin to stop this protest. This protest should continue until the Nigerian political establishment learn its lessons. So it's not with the police. The police is not simply the issue. And even this police reform, they have been talking about it for the last... I read a young man in the social media. He said he's been hearing of this police reform since 2015. I said I have been hearing about it since 1980, when Sunday Adewusi was the IG of police. So you can see, that's about 40 years. So it is now, when people are on the street, that they want to reform the police. Which reform are you reforming the police for, if I can use that language? Look at their barracks. See Falomo. Whichever state you come from, just walk into police barrack and see. In the last 20 to 30 to 40 years, there is nothing significantly that has changed as far as Nigerian police is concerned. The only noticeable change, I think it happened during Hindoro's time, where their uniform was changed from complete black to the one they have a gray and a black. Apart from that, nothing. The police still remains the same. And whether, even if you have changed them, that will not change anything. Police are not the governors. Police are not the legislators. Police are not the ministers. They represent They protect a class. They protect a class, and that class is the problem of Nigeria.
Distinguished Senator, let us head into a different issue that we think is also of concern to this country. I'm sure that you know of the World United Nations report, which positioned Nigeria about 2 years ago or 3 as the poverty capital of the world. Permit me to rephrase that report. It might be true if Nigeria is taken as a basket, as a single basket. But the fact is that all the indices used by the UN to arrive at that report played out fully in northern Nigeria. I might therefore safely suggest that indeed northern Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. Do you believe that, like what happened in 1945 at the end of the Second World War, that northern Nigeria needs a Nigerian model of Marshall Plan to be able to help it out of this poverty? Will you agree to play the politics that does not need partisanship but requires national understanding for this nation to aggregate resources in our own enlightened self-interest to solve the poverty challenge in northern Nigeria?
Thank you for this question. Well, first and foremost, I have problem accepting that statistics that the North is the poverty capital of the world. I don't think that is correct, because I've been to countries, many countries in Africa. I've seen the poverty in Niger Republic, in Chad, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Uganda, Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Malawi. I don't think that this is true, but we can see that the north is poorer than the southern part of Nigeria. But before I continue also, I think the south should not deceive themselves, always taking the narrative that the north is poorer than the south, because the poor people that are in the south are simply being marginalized, and the picture that is being given is that the south is, everybody in the south is rich and everyone in the north is poor, which is not true. Poverty is in all parts of Nigeria, from Calabar to Ibadan, everywhere. But there are different kinds of poverty. The poverty that we are talking about in the north is the one in which the region has the resources to be better than it is now, but it has by itself become the problem of itself. For the 60 years of our political independence, many of those that have held political offices, the highest office in the land, are from northern Nigeria. And they had the opportunity to develop the agricultural base of the north, explore the mineral resources of the north, upgrade its educational standard, and industrialize the region. If the foresight and the dreams of the likes of Sadona of Sokoto and Aminu Kano was the compass for development of northern Nigeria, we could not have been where we are today. But over the years, we have had leaders who have not just destroyed the north, but have also retarded the development of the southern part of Nigeria. Where did we get this wrong? You see, the political establishment in the north have capitalized on the ignorance of the people, manipulated them using sectionalism, religion and ethnicity, and build a wall of defense and solidarity around themselves. and made it impossible for the people to use their sense of reasoning and question power. It is our own that is in power. We must protect him. We must preserve him. We must support him. And as such, if you have that kind of insurance, you don't need to perform. You don't need to deliver, because your position and seat is guaranteed by a sentiment, by a prejudice, which you have built over the years. So religion and ethnicity has been used to enslave the people in the North and deny them the capacity and the ability and the right to question power when it goes wrong. So, the poor, the northern poor, have not benefited from the wealth of the Nigerian state. I have not seen, out of every 10 poor people in the north, 9.5 will not tell you, don't know the name of the person in his state that has an oil wealth in Niger Delta. They don't know. So they live by struggle and survival, but because their own thinking and conscience is being controlled by a sentiment, so it becomes impossible for them to question those in the position of authority. That is why you will see that it is most likely a typical northerner can come out to the street and protest on religious and sectional issues than on issues that borders on his life, on his survival, and that of his family, and that of his children. When you have an uprising against a government, let's say on issue of fuel price increase, it is so easy to convince a northerner not to come out and protest, because the protest is coming from the south and is done against the president, who is his brother and who is someone that comes from his own religion or section.
No matter how he suffers from the policy.
No matter how. So this is how it is. So the political elites there have used this as a weapon to clamp the people down and keep them in their own perpetual servitude and control. It is only, and why it has been so is because of what became of the politics of northern Nigeria right from the First Republic to date. There are two political spectrums in northern Nigeria: the revolutionary socialist side of Aminu Kano and the conservative side of Sardauna of Sokoto. And it is the conservative side that produced the first leadership and controlled the affairs of the state. So the thinking, the ideological thinking of those leaders of that time usually vibrates within their own followers. That is why the people from the southwest, you can see their thinking, their ideological bent and thinking on horizon is from that of Awolowo, even though you have some dissent. And that of the southeast are of a pan-Nigerian outlook, though the southeast are divided into two. There are those who think like Zik and those who think like Ojukwu. Now, in the general context, I'm trying to show you that the North can be one of the most prosperous part of Nigeria and the whole of West Africa if a number of things is done. First of all, the immediate issue is to address the problem of terrorism and extremism. And this extremism is not simply about members of Boko Haram or the Shiite, as people will say. A simple comment on social media you can detect extremists and fanatics. There are so many of them. Second issue is education. The need to invest in education in the north, upgrade public education system, get more people in school and make it possible for them to read and write and be able to challenge authority. The third aspect is investment in agriculture and soil mineral resources. If those two areas have serious investment, the north now can even be more prosperous than the south. Because if you are to divide the land space in Nigeria, 70% of Nigeria's land is northern Nigeria. It's 30% that is southeast and southwest and south-south. Now with such land, and there is no part of this country where you cannot plant a corn and for it to germinate. So the poverty, the penury and the destitution in northern Nigeria is self-inflicted, and it has become a weapon that is being used by the political establishment in northern Nigeria to control people. And by doing that, they are retarding the progress of the country. The solution to it is the need to restructure this country so that we don't again wait for free money coming from oil from Niger Delta. We all now have to think inward. What do we do? What should we do to make money? You can grow corn in Sokoto, you can grow corn in Katsina, you can grow corn in Zamfara, you can grow corn in Kaduna State. Why can't we grow corn and supply to Kellogg's in Europe or United States for cornflakes? So we need a leadership, not the kind of leadership we are having today. We need a leadership with a vision. When I say leadership with a vision, I mean a leadership that has a manual of what to do with power. When Murtala Muhammad came, he ruled Nigeria for 6 months. But before he assumes office, he already has a template of what to do.
So because he also believed in the left, intellectual left.
Yes. So he knows the problem. And then you come into office in 2015. We spent about 4 to 5 months without ministers. Some of the programs that ought to have been done in the first tenure have been done now. And we keep on piling debt upon debt. We are reaching a point that we are going back to where we come from in 2004. A Nigerian leader we need is one that is pan-Nigerian. One that does not see himself as a southerner or northerner. One whose major focus is development and prosperity, progress and future of Nigeria. One that will restructure this country and make it possible for all parts of the country to contribute to national development. So I believe that we cannot achieve this without having the kind of desired leaders we have. But most people we elect into office either people that reflect our ethnic, religious, or sectional interests or sentiment. And that is not going to be of use to Nigeria of 21st century.
Well, you're watching the Signature Show on AIT. We'll take a break now, and when we return, 2 more interesting issues we'll discuss with Senator Sani. Stay with us.
This is Signaturetv.org. Breaking the news. Following the news. Analyzing the news. 247 round the clock. All on the go. Signaturetv.org. News in your pocket.
Well, let me welcome you back. Distinguished Senator, Permit me to return to the matter of poverty. If you walk Nigerian streets in Abuja, in Kano, in Jos, in Katsina, you'll be confronted with the sight of Nigerians begging. It's not just begging. Young people, 3 years, 5 years, who seem to live their lives in the street. Some derisively say they are born in the street and they grow up in the street. And majority of them are from northern Nigeria. I don't have the exact statistics, but preponderantly, these beggars are Hausas. You can hardly find an idle or unemployed Fulani person. You can hardly find a Fulani woman who is begging. You can hardly find an unemployed Fulani person. You find them as mayors, you find them as district head, you find them as intellectuals, PhDs, ministers, permanent secretaries, well-off Nigerians. Why is it that it is the Hausa person in northern Nigeria who begs?
Well, I think this is a question which we try to ask ourselves. For those of us who are Hausa Fulani.
Let me interrupt you.
Yes.
Is there any ethnic group in Nigeria called Hausa Fulani?
Yeah, when they said Hausa Fulani, it means that part of your family is Hausa and part is Fulani. We have people who are purely Hausas and we have people who are purely Fulanis. And when you have, maybe your mother is Fulani, your father is Hausa, then you have to say Hausa Fulani. So it is, to my own thinking, that is how it's supposed to be. But now, the general identity of people in northern Nigeria, or most people know that, is going to be Hausa Fulani, in order to make sure that both two ethnic groups are represented. But they are distinctive ethnic groups. Fulani have their language and culture, and the Hausas also have their language and culture separate from, but they are all brought together by history and by religion, and the fact that for centuries intermarriages have made it possible for beautiful Fulanis to also share part of their beauty and handsomeness to the Hausas. So that is why you will see that Hausas are purely African and stockish Africans. But in Fulanis, you can see some Asiatic features in them. So this is just the difference. So back to your question now, I will say that the idea of begging by the Hausas come from a particular religious sect within Islam in the north that has no issues with begging and simply even indirectly endorses it. And let me tell you in layman term how you can understand here. Just like in Christendom, you have the Catholics, the Presbyterians, the different denominations you have. So also in Islam, you have the Sunni, you have the Shiite, you have the Tijaniya, the Tariqa, and others. So the sect which the Hausas, the religious sect, that Islamic religious sect that dominates Hausa land, the clerical establishment there now operate what they call madrasas, which is the local Islamic school, where you send your child from one part of the country to another to go and learn. And if the teacher naturally has no job doing other than teaching them, And now he sends the children to go and beg, and then by begging, they give him some part of the money, and also they keep the money for themselves. So that religious sect within Islam endorses the begging culture, and then it also dominates Hausa land. But with the expansion of the Sunni, and then people like late Sheikh Abubakar Muhammad Gumi, by his sermons, by his preaching, he now tried to did everything within his lifetime to show how un-Islamic it was for people to beg. Then they now set up modern schools. It's going to be like, the schools are like our own Western schools, but they purely teach Islamic. And he also prescribed that children should go to school with their own parents. So why houses beg has to do with the fact that a religious sect within Islam dominates Hausa land, and they also support that. And Fulanis are not within that religious sect. The jihad of Damfodio in the early 1800s was founded not just, it wasn't about converting idol worshippers to Islam, but it's also about purifying Islam from un-Islamic practices. And that is why they embark on a war. And in most Hausa lands today, the emirs are Fulanis as a result of that war. And in Bidda, they are Nupes, but the emir, the Ezunupe, are Fulanis. In Kano, they are Hausas, but the emirs are Fulani. In Zaria, they are Hausas, but the emirs are Fulani. In Gombe, in everywhere except in Borno area, where they have an empire that was able to counter the Fulani jihadis at that very time here, and then preserve its own territory. So why Hausas beg simply has to do with the fact that a religious sect within Islam dominates Hausa land, and it encourages that. But now things are changing.
Now things are changing. Distinguished Senator, let me ask you, is the Hausa person a landless Nigerian?
It cannot be a landless Nigeria because he has the largest expanse of land in Nigeria.
Is he in control of his land?
He is in full control, even invading other lands that are not Hausas.
Why I ask the question is this.
Yes.
I understand, please educate me if I'm wrong, that this land that is supposed to be for the Hausa population, the indigenous Hausa person, are indeed in the control of the emirs. Am I right?
Well, before the coming of colonialists, the emirs have a very strong authority over land matters. But with the defeat of the Sokoto Caliphate and also the full colonization of Nigeria, laws are made and the powers of the emirs were seriously reduced. And now governors control the land, and though some land still, the emirs have some authority over them, but still land is about the control of governors. So it's not, it used to be that, but now it is not the case.
Now, why I'm asking the question, there has been this conversation that one of the reasons why the Hausa person begs, apart from religion, is because he is a dispossessed person and has no heritage to the land. And there's no system that apportions him freely land to work on.
No, it's not true. If you look at the whole of the southeastern part of Nigeria, it can fit into 2 states in northern Nigeria. And the lands belong to Hausa people. So they can farm. I can tell you that the negative aspect of it simply has to do with the religious ingredients of it, as far as this begging thing is concerned. You don't see, you hardly see people from the Sunni side who are involved in that. Yeah, it is always from this side, and they felt that it is one of the conflicts that is going on. People from some of these sects still believe that despite being Muslims, but some of our African cultures and tradition need to be preserved. But the other side are saying, if you are a Muslim, you should be a Muslim, and there should be no bringing impurities into it. So this is it. Apart from that, it's not about land, and because you can have a family that has a land and a farm that will leave that land and sell their children to as far as Yobe State or Adamawa State to go there and learn the Quran. But they don't have job to do there and they have to beg. And so it is something that for years northern leaders have not really taken it seriously. And not just seriously, they were afraid of confronting that religious establishment that promotes, propagates and supports the culture of begging.
Distinguished Senator, let me take you now over to an issue you were once a champion of. Can I begin it this way? Can Nigeria shoot its way with the boots and the guns? Can Nigeria shoot its way out of the present challenge of insecurity? Or is there a need for either outright paradigm shift or a combination of options?
Well, the part of the country that faces the most serious challenge to peace and order is northern part of Nigeria. In the northwest, particularly in the states of Katsina, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna, and part of Niger State, they are virtually under the control of bandits that have been killing people, kidnapping people. And this wave of kidnapping has seriously destroyed lives and livelihood. Many people couldn't go to farms, and many of them, villagers, have sold their farms and houses to pay ransom to kidnappers. So the poverty there is growing because of the activities of these bandits. And funeral and mourning has become a daily affair in parts of Niger State, Niger East, and in Kaduna State, the whole of southern Kaduna is a danger, and in the central, Igabi, Chukun, Birnengwari local government, and Giwa, parts of Giwa local government are under control by bandits. In Katsina, almost 8 local governments are controlled by bandits, and some few local governments in Sokoto State. And in the northeast, you can see that Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe State are still facing the problems of insurgency, terrorists attacking and killing innocent people, attacking soft targets, unleashing mayhem is the order. And in the north central, Tivis and Jukuns from Taraba and Benue State have been killing each other. An ethnic problem in southern Kaduna and Plateau State is still a problem. Kidnapping in Nasarawa does even reach the parts of Abuja now. So if you put this into context, you will see that this is as a result of the failure of governance to address what needs to be addressed at its budding stage before it rises to this level. If we have a government in the last 10 years that has projected problems of insecurity, we couldn't have been where we are today. And I believe the solution to it now is, first of all, we need to restructure this country and make it possible for people to protect their lands. And then we need to have a modern police and modern army that will exploit technology to fight crimes and criminalities. It is so unfortunate that we spend billions of naira, hundreds of millions of dollars in the name of security. I've seen the 2021 budget. Security is at the highest in terms of allocation. But that has been the case in the last 3 to 4 years. But that has not translated to security and safety for our people. Kidnappers in Kaduna State now after kidnapping a wife or children, they call you with a phone and transact with you, and you take money to them. So where is technology that kidnappers can make calls and get away with it freely? Without phone calls, they can't be able to kidnap or to collect ransom. It's just impossible. So how can you say that a nation like Nigeria, we cannot protect our land? Algeria is 2.5 size of Nigeria, but you can't kidnap any person there and get away with it within the next 48 hours. Why is Nigeria becoming a failing state? Because we are failing. Once the government, the authority, has lost control of its own spaces in terms of ensuring governance and order, then the nation is edging towards being categorized as a failed state. And this is what is happening to our country today.
In other words, we may not get out of this insecurity purely by guns and boots.
There are a lot of things that need to be done.
What are the options?
The use of technology is very important for intelligence gathering and also for actions in terms of taking them out. And then we also need to involve the locals. If you have one local government now that has security challenge and you are recruiting policemen and soldiers, why don't you recruit them from that local government and send them to fight to be able to combat those criminalities? That is very important. And then we also need to secure our borders. Our borders are very porous, and people come in and go out anytime, anyhow. That need to be well protected in order for us to secure this country. If we don't do that, there is no way that we are going to be free from where we are. You ask yourself, why is it only in Nigeria that you have kidnapping? You don't have it in Benin Republic, you don't have it in Niger Republic, that are our neighbors. It's only Nigeria. It all has to do with governance and the kind of security. You can't kidnap any person in Niger. Niger is 1.5 size of Nigeria. You cannot kidnap one person without you being detected in the next 48 hours. And the budget of the whole of Niger Republic is no more than the budget of Delta State. And the pay for the police and the army of Niger Republic is almost 20% is what is being paid to the member of Nigerian police or Nigerian army. So it all has to do with, you say, increase their salary, increase this, increase that. You keep on increasing as long as you don't have a leadership that is determined and a security agency that is proactive and that will use technology. And then look at how they do it now. If you are a critic of government, they know how to monitor your calls. And if you are involved in Yahoo, they know money that is transferred to you. But when it comes to the issue of people who are killing innocent Nigerians, they have no clue on what to do about it. So where is the missing link is what we are going to have to ask ourselves and then have answers to.
Distinguished Senator, the earlier part of this submission seems to suggest to me that you could cast your vote for state police.
I have my reservations on state police, but if it's going to be the solution to the problem of Nigeria, so be it. My own issues with state police is that it should not be like state INECs, where the ruling party gets all the tickets, they win all the position, and the governor of the state determines who is the winner. If you give governors control of the police, the major focus is not simply going to be the criminals, but their political opponents. I can't imagine myself in Kaduna State with a governor of Kaduna State in control of the police force. I may have to change the state to another state with my family. No matter what it is, there needs to be some level of control from the federal level. If you have state police in Anambra, somebody like Otto Eze cannot go there and stay. If you have state police in Imo State, Ihedioha and Rochas Okocha cannot go back to their homes. If you have state police in ENUGU state, the opponents of the governor cannot go there. If you have state police in all these states, the critics, people who are criticizing the governors, can't go back and stay. So we need to understand this. And then if there is need to address those issues, we do it, and then we can move to where we need to move to.
Distinguished Senator, I'm going to close this conversation with a question on expectation and hope. Do you think that Nigeria will ever redeem its potential as a model nation for the black race?
You see, we are such a miraculous and terrific country. We have crises, we have problems, we have turbulence, we have storms. But we are also very good in navigating through them and emerging out of them. We have always rise out of the ashes and from the bones as far as this Nigeria is concerned. And that is a miracle in us. And I believe that with a leadership that is patriotic, committed, dedicated, corrupt-free, one in which will give every Nigerian a sense of belonging and have focus and compass on where the nation will go, we will reach there. And we should know that there is no nation in the world that has no problem. Even if you cut this nation into states, you will still have problems. If we go our separate ways, southwest, there will be problem within themselves. Southeast, there will be problems, south, and northern part of Nigeria. And almost 80% of nations of the world are creations of other people, not people from that kind of thing. America is a colonial creation. Why have they prospered and we have not? Why? The same thing with Canada. And you know the history of Australia, where the people who were shifted from UK to Austria, now they are a developed country. So in every way you put it, you see that you will find out that it is about leadership, it's also about people. Let us for once resolve together to address the structural default of Nigeria. And then from there, we can move on. But Nigeria will survive on the condition that you have a leadership that is dedicated, committed, and that can sacrifice itself for the nation. Not ones that are only there for themselves and their families and their children.
Well, here we draw the curtain on this conversation this Sunday. Of course, you know that the conversation never ends. And this afternoon we've been conversing with distinguished Senator Sani, a progressive thinker. I said at the beginning, I didn't ask him a question when he would decide to engage the northern intellectual class and insist that certain issues we raised this afternoon will be of national conversation. But I know someday we'll find a time to do that. Distinguished Senator, thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you for having me here.
My name remains Mwabuez Njoko. Let's meet next Sunday. Good afternoon.
Signature TV News.
Welcome to Global News on Signature TV. I am Christopher Lele. In the headlines, Tinubu congratulates Adeleke, says victory reflects people's will. 2027, Governor Adeleke reaffirms support for Tinubu's re-election. ASU rejects APSU lecturer suspension, vows to sustain strike. And Pope calls for an end to West Bank violence against Palestinians. Details in a moment.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
President Bola Tinubu has described Governor Demola Adeleke's re-election in the Osun State governorship election as an assurance that democracy will continue to flourish in Nigeria. Tinubu stated this in a statement issued on Sunday by Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, following Adeleke's victory in the August 15 election. The president said he called Adeleke to congratulate him on his victory. He added that the result reflected the confidence of the people of Osun State, and the president commended the Independent National Electoral Commission and security agencies for conducting what he described as a peaceful and transparent election that produced a clear winner. Adeleke, the Accord Party candidate, was declared the winner of the election at about 7:24 a.m. on Sunday by the state returning officer, Professor Joshua Ogunwole, the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University, Oyo Ekiti.
I, Professor Joshua Laleko Ogunwole, hereby certify that I am the returning officer for the 2026 Osun State governorship election held on the 15th day of August 2026. Adeleke Ademola Jackson Nuruddin, Party A, 511,067, 511,067. Olarewaju Fariloye, AA, 2,308, 2,308. Esa Olajide AAC, 1458, 1,458. Salam Najim Folashayo, ADC, 17180, 17,180. Adiagbo Okpawoye Yemisi, ADP, 2946, 2,946. Oyebamiji Bola, APC, 444,815, 444,815. For that, the Adeleke Ademola Jackson Nuruddin of Accord Party, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Signed by the returning officer, my signature, 16th day of August 2020.
511,067 votes to defeat his closest challenger, Bola Oyebamiji of the All Progressives Congress, who scored 444,815 votes. Adeleke won 19 of the state's 30 local government areas, while Oyebamiji won 11. The African Democratic Congress candidate Najim Salam came third with 17,180 votes. The victory secured Adeleke a second term after he was selected governor in 2022 on the platform of the People's Democratic Party before moving to the Accord Party for the 2026 election. Osun State Governor Demola Adeleke has reaffirmed his support for President Bola Tinubu's bid for a second term in office in the 2027 presidential election. Adeleke re-endorsed the president on Sunday while delivering his victory speech following his re-election as governor of Osun State. The governor, who had earlier endorsed Tinubu for another term, commended the president for what he described as his support for a free and fair governorship election in the state. The governor described Tinubu as a son of Osun State and used the occasion to renew his endorsement of the president's 2027 presidential bill.
At this point, I must deeply appreciate Mr. President, His Excellency, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for his strong support for a free and fair election. Mr. President is a son of Osun State, and I hereby reaffirmed my earlier endorsement of him for a second term in the 2027 presidential election.
Adeleke had earlier disclosed that Tinubu called him to congratulate him on his victory before the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, formally announced the final result. The governor's renewed endorsement comes after he secured re-election in Saturday's governorship election, defeating his closest challenger, Bola Oyebamiji of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Former Bayelsa State Governor Henry Siraki Dixon, Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development Festus Keyamo, former Senator Ben Murray Bruce, and other political figures have congratulated Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke on his victory in Saturday's governorship election. The politicians, in separate messages on X on Sunday, described Adeleke's re-election as significant for democracy and the people of Osun State, while urging political actors to draw lessons from the outcome. Dixon congratulated Adeleke on his re-election, saying the outcome demonstrated that the people could still assert their democratic will through the ballot despite the challenges facing the political environment. Keyamo also congratulated Adeleke on what he described as a historic victory in the governorship election. Murray Bruce congratulated Adeleke, whom he described as a friend and former colleague in the 8th Senate. Former Kogi State Senator Dino Melaye also congratulated Adeleke, describing the outcome as an opposition victory, while former Lagos State Labour Party governorship candidate Gbadebo Rhodes Vivo congratulated Osun voters, describing the election outcome as a triumph against what he termed tyranny. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde also congratulated his Osun State counterpart Ademola Adeleke on his re-election, saying the outcome of the governorship election reflected the will of the people. Makinde's message also comes as several opposition figures have congratulated Adeleke following the declaration. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi, and former Senate President Bukola Saraki were among those who publicly acknowledged the outcome and congratulated the Osun governor. Supporters of Governor Ademola Adeleke on Sunday besieged the Independent National Electoral Commission headquarters in Osogbo, Osun State, singing, dancing, and chanting solidarity songs after their court party was declared the winner of the 2026 Osun governorship election. The supporters who gathered around the collation center as they celebrated the result were seen cheering and singing.
Have been seen jubilating as results continue to come in, but the big question remains: will Adeleke maintain this lead until the final declaration? Watch the results.
People are jubilating for Imole's winning everywhere. This is Idu-Osun. People were jubilating for Imole all the way. Àwọn èrò tó jubilate fún akọ́ọ̀dù lílé yìí ò fún ìmọ́lẹ̀. Ìmọ́lẹ̀ lílé yìí ò, àwọn èèyàn mọ́lẹ̀ lílé yìí ò, jubilation for ìmọ́lẹ̀. Can you see jubilation for ìmọ́lẹ̀? Jubilation for ìmọ́lẹ̀ everywhere. Jubilation for ìmọ́lẹ̀.
Following the conclusion of the gubernatorial election, the Osun State Police Command has urged residents to celebrate responsibly and warned against any actions that could compromise public peace and safety. In a statement issued by the command's public relations officer, Abiodun Ojelabi, on Sunday, the Election Commissioner of Police, CP Samuel Itaifo, congratulated the people of the state on the peaceful completion of the poll, while acknowledging that citizens have a legitimate right to express joy over the election outcome. The command stressed that all celebrations must remain strictly within the bounds of the law. He warned against actions capable of causing bodily injury, property destruction, traffic obstruction, citizen harassment, or direct confrontation with political opponents. The police command strictly prohibited reckless driving and dangerous stunts, the discharge of firearms or use of firearms, the brandishing of dangerous weapons, the destruction of public or private infrastructure, and violent street processions or provocative attacks on opponents. The command announced that security personnel have been strategically deployed across the state to preserve law and order, warning that violators who hide behind the post-election period to perpetrate crimes will face immediate arrest and prosecution. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has formally closed its situation room following the conclusion of the August 15 Osun State governorship election and the declaration of the result in the early hours of Sunday. The Commission announced this in a statement posted on its official X handle on Sunday. The INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amopeton, while addressing staff at the situation room, commended them for the dedication, sacrifice, and professionalism throughout the electoral process. He also attributed the peaceful atmosphere during the election to the grace and protection of Almighty God. The INEC chairman described the Osun election as a milestone, not a destination, stressing that the lessons and experience gained must inform the Commission's preparations for the 2027 general election. The Plateau State Police Command has confirmed the arrest of a police officer for allegedly shooting an unarmed businessman at the checkpoint in Riom local government area of the state. Police Public Relations Officer SP Alfred Alabo said in a statement that the incident occurred on August 11 when the victim was stopped at a checkpoint while conveying vegetables to the southeast. Alabo, who identified the businessman as Dan Ladi, who moves goods with his van, also confirmed that the officer had been disarmed and taken into custody. He said the DPO in charge of the Riom division immediately went to the checkpoint upon receiving the information, disarmed the officer, and took him to the State Criminal Investigation Department for interrogation. The PPRO added that the investigation into the circumstances surrounding the shooting was ongoing, assuring the public that the command would provide updates as the process progresses. Alabo appealed to members of the public to avoid confrontations with armed security personnel whenever disagreements occur. He urged them to use established complaints channels to report alleged misconduct by any officer on duty. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Abia State University, ABSU, Uturu Branch, has rejected the suspension of one of its members, Professor Nnamdi Nwaize, describing the action as unacceptable and vowing to sustain its ongoing indefinite strike until the suspended academic is recalled. The union commended in The union commenced an indefinite strike action on Tuesday, August 11, over unpaid salaries. The next day, the management of the university suspended Professor Nwaize, a lecturer in the Department of Economics, over what he described as his social media posts, which are inimical to the interests of the university and its visitor, Governor Alex Otti. Reacting to the ongoing strike action and the suspension of the lecturer, Chairman ASU ABSU, Dr. Chidi Mba, explained that the union had made its position clear during a meeting with the university management. Mba said if the university had any justification for suspending the lecturer, it ought to have followed the procedure stipulated in the university's edict. Mba also confirmed the claims made by Nwaize in the social media post concerning lecturer salaries and welfare, stressing that ABSU lecturers were still being paid under the 2009 ASU federal government salary structure. According to him, promoted lecturers are not placed on the appropriate salary scales, while staff members receive only half of their salaries. Mba stressed that the strike began before Wednesday made his social media post on Wednesday morning and that the professor was suspended later the same day. He said that the national leadership of ASU subsequently directed the chapter to resist the suspension, insisting that the strike would not be suspended until Wednesday was reinstated, even if all other demands were met. Still to come, Zimbabwe police. Death toll from Lake Kariba boat accident rises to 80. Pope calls for an end to West Bank violence against Palestinians. Stay with us.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on eVibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
I should try harder, so...
Okay, I don't know that one.
Outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that.
No.
That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on eVibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
Zimbabwe's National Police Service said in a post on X on Sunday that the death toll from a boat accident on Lake Kariba on August 11 had risen to 80 after 8 more bodies were found. The overloaded passenger ferry run by the government's Rural Infrastructure Development Agency, RIDA, overturned in choppy waters on Tuesday in a rare accident on the vast lake on the border with Zambia. It is believed to be the country's deadliest of such disaster. Search teams recovered 25 bodies on Saturday, taking the toll to 72. Police gave no details of the new victims, but most of the passengers on the vessel were villagers and fish traders who lived around the lake, many from the Chalala fishing camp. Officials said the boat was authorized to carry 90 people, but was packed with 114 adults, 5 crew members, and an unspecified number of children. The Civil Protection Unit said on Wednesday that 77 people had been rescued. With the 80 bodies that police said they had recovered, this would remain the vessel was carrying 157 people. Officials have not said how many children were among the dead. Hundreds of people gathered at the district hospital in Kariba on Saturday to identify the bodies of their relatives and loved ones. Violence erupted in western Kenya early on Sunday, a journalist said, ahead of an opposition rally where leaders had warned they could face attacks by armed thugs. The country is due to hold national polls in just under a year, with President William Ruto seeking a second term. Opposition politicians have warned of an increasingly hostile environment, and observers have voiced concerns about the use of armed thugs, known in Kenya as goons, to disrupt political gatherings. The opposition Linda Wananchi movement, a group seeking to galvanize dissatisfaction over Ruto's tenure, plans to hold a rally with potential presidential aspirants Edwin Sifuna on Sunday in Homa Bay. A journalist described chaotic scenes early Sunday morning in the center of town, with goons attacking passers-by and snatching valuables. Scores of men, some armed with sticks and machetes, were moving through streets, and some had lit tires or constructed makeshift barricades on the main road. They also said there was no police presence in the town, although officers on the outskirts were stopping people traveling to the center. Ahead of the rally, Linda Wananchi leaders had claimed to local media that goons were being mobilized to disrupt the political gathering. The statement also warned politicians and organizers against incitement, provocation, or any conduct likely to breach the peace, and emphasized officers were strictly non-partisan. Pope Leo called on Sunday for an end to violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank amid a surge of attacks by militant settlers on a siege in the territory village of Kusra. Israeli settlers encircled houses after cutting off water and electricity in what rights groups have said is a concerted effort to seize more land and further it into territory where Palestinians aim to establish a state. The Vatican has long backed the idea of a future Palestinian state, which has been recognized by more than 150 of 193 UN member states as encompassing the Gaza Strip and West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing coalition government has overseen massive settlement construction in the West Bank that Finance Minister Baseleh says is aimed at burying the idea of such a state. The United Nations and most governments consider the settlement to be illegal under international law related to military occupation. Israel seized the West Bank in the 1967 war, but argues that territory is disputed rather than occupied. Iran's parliament approved on Sunday the general principles of a bill that would criminalize interviews and other communications with media deemed hostile to the Islamic Republic, including US or Israeli media and outlets financed by either country, Iran's Shag newspaper reported. Osman Salari, a member of Parliament's Judicial and Legal Commission, said that the individual provisions of the bill, which is aimed at countering foreign intelligence influence, have yet to be debated and approved. Reports about the bill's details should not yet be considered final, Salari told the Mizan news agency. Under the proposed bill, interviews or participation in discussions with such media would be banned and violations would carry 6 months to 2 years in prison. Interviews with other foreign media would require notification to the Intelligence Ministry, while contact with foreign embassies, offices of foreign organizations, or other known Iranian institutions without notification and written permission from the Foreign Ministry would be punishable by a fine and deprivation of certain social rights. The proposed legislation would also harden penalties for economic crimes committed under the direction or supervision of foreigners, ban providing information for foreigners without Intelligence Ministry approval, and restrict scientific cooperation with foreign institutions outside an approved list. It would punish policy or legislative proposals made under the direction of foreign intelligence services if they harm Iran's security or independence, with prison terms of up to 30 years. Cases will be heard by the revolutionary courts. The bill will be considered article by article in Parliament. Once Parliament approves the final text, it will have to be reviewed by the Guardian Council before becoming law. That's the news. I am Christopher Lely. Thanks for watching.